Hello viewers, today we're going to start replacing the bearings in a Hampton Bay St. cylinder fan. We also got to replace the switch because that's screwed up. They're not too bad, but you can hear them and they're not going to get any better. A lot of people play games of trying to oil the bearings and repack them with grease or whatever. Bearings last a long time. They're inexpensive. When they get noisy, I just change them out. I fix a lot of things, but bearings I do not play with. I just change them out. So first thing we got to do is remove the housing. I'm going to take the motor screws out and we're going to store those separately. It looks like that. Those rubber insulators may be coming off as well, so we'll just take those off so they don't end up getting lost. This is an older model. It's probably a late 90s, early 2000s. So the bearings gave us a good 2 decades or so of service before getting noisy. And they're not functionally an issue. They're still plenty free, but I don't like loud fans, so I don't want to hear the bearings. This fan is otherwise in beautiful cosmetic condition. Everything is really nice looking on here. It's not tarnished much or anything. It's not all scratched up and bent. It's kind of ironic because that other one that I have, which is in terrible physical condition, is pretty mechanically sound still. Alright, so we have some screws here. They're kind of odd. They're not at the same distance. There's some faux screws there, which is kind of funny. I never noticed that before. So let's take those 4 off. There's a nut and bolt on the other side of the housing that they connect to. So I'm going to go ahead and screw these back together so they don't get misplaced. I don't have the bearings on hand. I gotta open this up and see what kind they are, then I gotta order them, then I gotta wait for them to come in. So this is gonna be sitting disassembled for some time, so I want to make sure that we pay attention here as we disassemble so that when I go to reassemble it's not confusing. Okay, that bearing, or that bolt is sticking on the other side. Looks like that was misthreaded at some point. So that whole bolt may need to be replaced. I think that cross-threaded in there. It's not going to work right. Yeah, the threads in there look okay. Yeah, it was crossed. So this is never gonna, actually it's screwed in there okay. Maybe the original threads are still good enough. Alright, we'll keep that. There's no real weight on here, so if it's not completely perfect, it doesn't matter. Okay. Now the housing should come off. I've got a bunch of material here that we're going to wrap this back up in because I don't want it getting messed up. It's going to be kicking around the studio here for probably a week or so, so it's got to be protected. Okay, now I'll turn this over. And the upper housing will come off with these screws here. I think 3 of them are supposed to be for the canopy if you were doing a flush mount kind of thing. I think all 6 of them are probably holding it on regardless. Okay, we've got a rubber washer here. And the housing should come up and off. What the heck? Why is the wires going through the downward holes? That's weird. I think this was flush mounted before. No, I don't do flush mount. That's all gets all weird. Probably end up using the down rod from that other one. Although actually this is not threaded, so I could just cut a new one. Pretty sure I have a long brass rod somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and ramp this up too. It's not long enough. I'll keep that piece for the switch housing. And this piece for here, this is long enough. Okay, that's good for that. Okay. So now we have to take this thing off. And that, I believe, comes off with a single, there's 2 screws down here underneath this. I don't know if this have to come out all the way or not. Let's see. No, I don't think so. Okay. And then, does it thread off? Something tells me this is not going to come off easily. It's already spinning at the bottom, so we're not going to be able to hold it with the... Yeah, it looks like it's threaded, and of course the screws are probably put in there so tight that it bent the threads up. So that may be interesting to get that off. It's going to have to come off though, because you got to slide the bearing off. And now see, peep this. There's all oil in that bearing. Somebody tried to oil this and it's still noisy, and now it's just going to make a mess. You can't oil ball bearings, don't work. Alright, let's get this housing out of here. We got capacitors stuck on there. It's no longer sticky. This is a dual capacitor. 4.5, 5, and 6. Loosen this up. And then I think this unscrews. Yeah, it does. So we got to make sure that we take the reverse switch off first. Okay, so now this can spin independently of the wires. And we'll just go ahead and thread that off. The end bearing's not sounding too good anymore. Alright, so now this is where it gets interesting because we have to dismantle all the stuff in here. And it's very easy to forget where stuff goes. So I'm going to take a break on the video for a moment to make a diagram, and then we'll come back on the video. I don't need to make a diagram for this one. This is very simple. Sometimes these are very confusing because there's not really a good standard for the color codes, but this one is very straightforward. I'm going to put wire nuts on this stuff just to keep it together, because if these came apart it's going to be a little bit of a nuisance. But you know, all of these 3 white ones go to the white one in there. These 3 yellows go to the yellow in there. That's too big. Or is that defective? No, it's just a bit. Now these 3 orange ones go to the orange in there. Red here goes to red there. Purple here goes to these purples. Very simple. The only thing that we have to remove from the switch is the black, which we know is the line. And I take a paper's clip and I stick that in there, and it will release the wire. So now I can take this out of the picture, and you know, it's all very simple how it goes back. So that's nice. And most of these I was able to get to come off. Sometimes these don't unbend very well, but all of these came off just fine. So that's good too. You can reuse those. Although I prefer wire nuts because you can't make any changes with that. Alright, so now we just need to feed the rest of this through. The switch housing is detached. I'm going to put the screw for the switch housing back in there, so we keep all the screws in their original places in case this has to sit for a while until I can get bearings. Okay, and then we'll just wrap this up. Okay, go back into the project box. So now we just have the motor that's left. Let's put, oh yeah, we gotta get this off of here. Okay, this is going to be kind of tricky here because we have to be able to lock the thing in position here. See, they oiled this and there's oil all over the shaft here now. I just don't like to do that. I'd rather just replace them. I'm going to try to hold this washer because the washer's got to come off anyways. So if it comes loose from doing this, then it's just as well. Well, it came off. Okay, now we're getting into tricky territory because there's absolutely nothing to hold on to turn that mechanism up there. Well, let's open the motor up and see if there's anything we can hold on to inside. I tend to doubt it, but let's see. I don't want to nick up that at all because it's just gonna make it harder to pull the bearing off if that's all nicked up from putting channel locks on there or something. So I want to avoid that. Don't want to make anything more difficult than it has to be. It's going to be pesky. I don't think these screws travel all the way through, but just in case they do, I'll take these off as well. And they gotta come off eventually anyways. Oh, you know what? Let's put the screws back into this reverse switch so that those don't get misplaced. Feels looser on the top, that's coming off now, but it definitely didn't change on the bottom. Or wait a minute, that was the top, this is the bottom. It's starting to go now. I think it's just stuck to the bearing at this point. Not good. Yeah, it's free. It's just stuck on a bearing. can't put any force on there yet because the wires are still through there. I don't think I can do anything with the puller yet. Let's see. I can try to keep the edge of the puller, you know, that's risky to do that. I don't really like doing that. I guess there is enough for it to grab onto. Let's see what we gotta do here. If I could just get this on here, this will make light work of the situation. What I probably could even do is I could take a nail or a screw, you know, whatever. Ouch! Not good. Why is there a drill bit in here? That's not where that goes. I can take this bolt here and put that on the surface of the bearing and push from there. This, of course, is one of those jobs where a third or fourth hand would be ideal. Trying to get this to line up is going to be kind of tricky here. I have to back that off a lot. There's probably other ways to do this. I just always like to use the puller because it's a very controlled tool. You have a lot of control on speed and pressure with the puller. And so there's a lot less chance of a freak show happening. You know, when you're hammering stuff and prying stuff, you lose control. But this is controlled. A little bit more pressure on here, and we'll give it a couple of whacks. Well, that didn't work too good. This is going to be a nuisance. A total nuisance, I can already tell. And no problem, I'll get it off. I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to put it right on the tip of the shaft here. this is very risky. We may damage the wires doing it this way. See if I can put something on there. What do I have here? Hey, that's not bad. Maybe I could put that, just set that bolt in there like that and get the tension on it that way. If it wasn't for these wires here, this would be off by now, but I'm making this easy. Oh, that was a nice idea, but that's not going to work. Okay, well, let's see. I can't even open the top. Let's see, I could take the top off and pull the wires through, but I can't because this thing is on here. This is very agitating. This is far more difficult than it should be. This should be easy. Well, I can see the number now. It's a 62022. Not good. Well, I have a post here. I could put something in there and try to turn the top thing off. Could do that. So I have a post on here too. Oh, duh! That doesn't hold the stupid shaft in place. No. I may just have to. Well, see, the top is going to have the same issue too. The top is not looking to come off. But these wires I could pull through to the bottom. So I could expose the top. Yeah, these will all just come right out. So I could use the puller effectively on the top now. Okay. I have to find my channel locks and hopefully I don't damage the shaft too much. Okay, so we use these. I don't like this, but I'm going to do it anyways because I don't know what else to do. Now this, I wonder if this is reverse threaded. I don't really see why it would be, because I mean the fan could run in either direction, so what difference would it make? Let's Nothing easy about this. Okay, let's change the location that these are connected to. This is ridiculous. So am I going the wrong direction? I could be making it worse. It's not budging either way. Of course, this isn't the greatest, there we go. This isn't the greatest situation for torque either. This candle is kind of short, but there it goes. Jeez, that is tight on there. Good grief. Yeah, see what happened was when the screws got put in, they were put in so tight that it shredded the threads. And it just kind of like machined new threads in there as I was taking it off. Not good. Well, it's off. Let's put this back on for now. Put all these screws back on so we don't lose them. And what they should have done is put a pin that goes through there, not these screws, because the pin wouldn't damage the threads, nor would it really ever come off. The screws, you know, they could loosen up and come off. Wouldn't expect them to, but it's possible. Oh, look at that, what a freak show in there now. I hope this flipping thing even goes back on right. It's all a mess in there now. Why would they design it like that? That's so dumb. Okay, well that's that. This is off now. So now what I can do, I may have to file that down because now that's all nicked up on there. May have to file that down if I can't get the bearing off, but I don't ever want to do that. Now I can take, I need a small socket. I typically take a socket and I put it over the shaft so that it won't, because you're not going to mushroom this, but this will mushroom pretty easily. Should really use an impact socket. I don't have any that small. The smallest one I have is this one, 24 1/2 inch. Anyways, now we can use the puller and we should be able to take this top right off with ease. And then we can take the wires out and get the bottom off and get on with my evening with the things I want to do today. I didn't expect this to take so daggone long. want to make sure that it's not bending at all. But there we go, that's off now. It's the top housing. See, there's oil residue in here. That's why I don't like to play with that, because it's not worth the trouble. Yeah, it's a 62022, which is pretty standard. I don't know what this was around, but that broke. Might have been around that. I have to put that back. This must get pretty hot. All this stuff is pretty deteriorated in there. Not good. Alright, we'll stick this on here. And now we'll go at the bearing itself. Probably don't need this gigantic puller. Let's use this smaller one. You get out of control here with gigantic pullers. You know, you just want it the right size so you get the control that you need. I have to say, for a cheap puller, this set works pretty well, but it does unscrew a lot. That's the only problem I've had with it. It's not really a big deal though. The only thing you really got to watch out for here is make sure you don't get that lead wire under the puller. Other than that, this is pretty simple. Alright, that looks pretty good like that. Okay, that's not good. It keeps moving over. Can't be doing that. It's going to break the lead wire. I'm going to hold something in place so it doesn't do that. That should solve the problem. No, that's the wrong place to put it. That will solve the problem. Just don't feel like it's on there too bad. It should come off pretty easy. Does this fit on there? Nah. Okay, there we go. Bearing number 1 is off. Nice and controlled, easy removal. And because it's covered in oil, I'm going to put it on a ticker towel here. Alright, so now what we can do is we can pull the wires up. I don't like how this is so loose like that. That's not correct. Yeah, there was a zip tie there at one point, and then it broke. There's the remains of it. So this is not correctly secured anymore. I'm gonna may tie wrap that to that winding there, so that the leads aren't flexing around. That should be good. Alright, now I'm a little more confident in pulling this out without anything breaking. There's 4 wires here that are going to come through. Okay, there's that. Some junk was in there. Alright, so now we can work on the other side. And we want to be careful that that's not like flexing around everywhere, and you don't want any tools to be scraping up against the windings. It'll take off the varnish. Alright, so we used... Where's that bigger socket at? Bigger socket. Did I use the same one? I guess so. Alright, so we're going to do the housing again. Okay, now if this is going to start twisting around here, you've got to be careful of the windings. See, they're moving around, so I'm going to keep it up like this as we tighten it. Okay, so it looks like the stator or the rotor has come off. I guess that's fine. Yeah, that's not really an issue. I want to make sure we don't lose the orientation which it goes in. So in this case, well, we know it sits on there like this. And we know that this was the top. So then that means this would go like this. And I'll put one screw in here to keep this together. Okay, now we'll go for the bearing. It may not come off as easily because of the damage to the shaft. But let's see, maybe it will. That's as far as I can go with the socket on there. It's not quite ready to come off. So we'll see if it doesn't require a lot of force, I can go without it, but if it starts to stick a lot, then I'm not going to be able to do this without damaging the shaft. No, it's coming off easily enough. It's not going to be mushrooming anything. So we'll just keep going like this. Okay. Now both bearings are off. These are 6202Z. Yeah. 6202Z. The focus. Really? There we go. And just so we have an approximate. It's about 1 5/16 wide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What are those? 16ths? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7/16, 12, and then the inner diameter is like 3/4 almost, so just a little bit shy. Maybe a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 12/16. No, duh, 12/16, 3/4. Okay, anyway, that's great. Okay, so I'll order some new bearings. That came off of there. I may put a second tie wrap on her to keep that in place, because that shouldn't be all over the place like it is. I'll put a second tie wrap there right now. It's just going to have issues if it's everywhere. You really want this tight enough so that nothing's going to move around, because that's how you get the burnouts when the windings keep vibrating against each other. I think that's probably good enough like that. Would have preferred this other one be a little bit tighter, but I think it's too late for that. It's good enough. Okay, so I'll set this aside, and then we'll do part 2 on this video when I get the new bearings in.